ABA continues. ABA rests for the moment. Boys write material. For musical. With Tim Rice? Yes. Agnetha Fältskog, 75. She eventually spoke about one topic ABBA fans never stopped asking regarding her Björn Ulvaeus history. For decades, their romance was portrayed as fairy story. But behind the music, unseen emotions existed. Years of suspense have ended for Agnetha that confirmed many suspicions and unexpected. She is in telling this story bitterly, but honestly explaining why she walked, what really transpired behind the scenes, and her feelings on Björn Day. Join us in discovering the truth lifetime possession for Agnetha, colliding stars. Before the world knew ABBA, two young unknowingly, painters moved towards each other. Their paths will cross that would alter both lives. Pop music forever. Agnetha Fältskog was raised in a tiny Swedish town, Jönköping. Away from the spotlight international music scene, she was shy, yet she loved early music was robust. By in her late teens, she wrote her own compositions and local acts dance bands. Her debut single, I Was So in Love, written at 17, rapidly topped Swedish charts. Even though she was talented and young, fame, Agnetha was modest, that young woman shy. She wasn't accustomed to attention and often finds industry pressures overpowering. Around this period, she became entangled the short-lived and unpleasant engagement with Zimmerman, German music producer. Publicity drove the romance. One she later discovered was organized to advance her career in Germany rather than love-based. When she realized this, she canceled, her heart broken, yet her spirit alive stronger. One of her first actual lessons on the differences picture the world sees and truth underlies it. Björn Ulvaeus, meanwhile, had established himself in the Swedish music scene. A member of Hutini Singers, a national group most popular folk groups, he garnered performer, guitarist, songwriter. He drove Björn's ambition, discipline, would shape his ABBA career that he was determined to build that enduring and deeply believed in power working together. In 1966, then member Benny Andersson met Björn, the Heap Stars, another prominent Swedish pop band. Their meeting signified the start of lifelong creativity partnership. Together, they began creating songs and early success that something special was happening shape. Björn's personal life was about to change as drastically Osha's musical one. Turning point came in 1969 in a studio with Benny and producer Stig Andersson. Björn heard song on the radio sung by a full-voiced woman instantly drew his eye. That lady Agnetha Fältskog. Fascinated, he requested her photo, and soon he claimed love that he hadn't met her. Fate quickly intervened. Some months later, they both scheduled for the same show duo performance on TV. Chemistry happened instantly. Undeniable. Shy singer Agnetha had been harmed. Met Björn, a confident songwriter who has discovered unknowingly seeking the muse for. It went beyond performance. It started an alliance that would become romantic and musical. Later, Björn said, I think my affection for her began before we met. Amazing meeting lit the fire, and what followed would make historical love, music, and a dream excellent match. Agnetha Fältskog meeting Björn Ulvaeus, their bond growing swiftly, but not only their personal bond that stood outweigh their romance blossomed from the public eye begin with. They were not merely two emerging talents, but potential power couple. Fans observed a lovely romance. What bonded them? Nobody saw the moments of intimacy, quiet chats, support they shared, and believed that love and music could coexist harmony. Their connection grew. When both were continually theatrical performances in Sweden that frequently appeared on similar shows, music shows, slowly becoming familiar pair, but behind the scenes, it was closer. Agnetha and backstage, Björn kissed secretly, made murmured assurances about future. They discussed beyond fame, basic ambitions like shared dinners, tranquil home, and kids' day. They fell in love. They combined their skills. Agnetha's naturalness impressed Björn, while Agnetha respected his strict attitude songwriting. They appeared on experiment with each other's recordings, their vocal mixes and harmonies. It was more than passionate chemistry. Creative. They found rhythm that seemed natural, like their voices and hearts aligned. The public witnessed two young stars beaming. What cameras didn't see were written that evening. Listening and supporting each other, they shared dreams and music. Language and its connection, they gained trust. Love can anchor anything, even life. They became famous by 1971. Deeply in love. Yet their lives were, they had busy careers ascending. Their schedules full, and media attention was growing. But they married, rather than a grand. They arranged a private event, that wedding away from noise and crowds, almost a wedding in disguise hidden from close family and few others' buddies. Their moment was unspoiled. Agnetha was photographed during the ceremony. Bjorn promised personally to talk about creating a music home. They thought family could coexist at mornings with kids, nights with songs, and security in knowing they have each other regardless of demand industry became. These promises sincere. They thought love would anchor against fame's pressures. They moved in after the wedding. Small flat. Praying for peace. Agnetha continued releasing solo, while Bjorn worked with Benny on songs. They worked to protect their relationship with calm routines, late dinners, handwritten notes, rare weekends alone. They believed they could balance love, but family and worldwide success. The world was moving quicker than them expected, and fame soon brought demands would test the promises they valued. But what happens when love faces global strain? Fame. ABBA is born. Around 1970, Björn Ulvaeus and Agnetha Fältskog, they lived a dream. Youthful, talented, newlyweds. Creative energy surrounds Annie Fred and Benny Andersson. The Lyngstads were set to form a group that will soon become one of biggest bands ever, ABBA. But while the world witnessed a fantastic success tale, the truth scenes were more harder. Fame that made them worldwide icons would be the biggest test. Off-tier marriage. ABBA began promising and exciting. 1972, the four, Agnetha, Bjorn, Benny, and Annie Fred recorded first songs together. Manager Stig Andersson thought their combination of skill and catchy pop tunes boost their international fame. Officially became ABBA. Created from their first letters names. They participated in 1974 European Vision Song Contest with their Now Waterloo. Their victory tune Everything changed overnight. Performance launched them globally. Fame and Waterloo were instant hits. Suddenly disappeared over Europe. Swedish artists were no more. International stars. Concerts, promo trips, and press interviews scheduled. Fans around the world adored their sound, their style, and two real-life partners doing music. Success was costly. More fame, less. Every detail of their life was private. Their relationships were monitored. Discussion and judgment of their love. The private story was suddenly public. Agnetha, Bjorn performed publicly, soon pulled in opposite directions. Famous guidance. Agnetha enjoyed music. She wanted peace and stability, always envisioned motherhood, establishing a peaceful household. Daughter Linda was born 1973. Agnetha wanted to spend more time as feasible, but ABBA's success prevented that. Tours, recording sessions, and TV appearances never seemed to cease. Bjorn, however, entirely engaged in the band's growth. His drive focused on music, business. ABBA prospered. Under pressure, Agnetha began to feel lost. Balance between career and family decelerated. Evaporate, and it grew heavy. Behind the glamour images and polished performances, life was tiresome. The gang was always moving. Traveling between cities, interview to next. Agnetha's dread of every flight was harder. Trip caused tension, and constantly moving left her emotional draining. Her diary subsequently recorded, "I felt invisible beside him." So years of calm were described in simple words. Pain drives Bjorn's success. Grow. Agnetha needs comfort, and this woman ignored calm. It began singing love songs with her hubby. Felt like she was leaving his world, and soon that peaceful distance would divide. Neither of them cracks allowed escape. Marriage. As ABBA's fame grew to amazing heights. Agnetha Fältskog, Björn Ulvaeus lived two lives. One house. Globe. They seemed ideal. Couple, bright, successful, and deeply in love, but behind locked doors were crumbling. That brought them music and shared ambition was separating them. Their disparities, once felt pleasant and complementary, started clash painfully. Bjorn was perfectionist who loved structure, creative achievement. Aims creating lyrics or organizing. He approached studio sessions. He focused and disciplined and enjoyed long studio hours, planning ABBA's future and assuring to his high standards. Every song group success proved him right, that their efforts paid off. Fame inspired him, not scared him. Agnetha was unique, sensitive, emotional, deeply tied to her motherhood and duties. She enjoyed performing, and she enjoyed calm and privacy, while singing. Continual connection and touring and fan attention left her draining. She didn't want spotlight. She needed breathing spacito raise her kids at home without camera pressure. Always watching difference in priorities became a major source tension Bjorn couldn't handle. See why Agnetha wasn't excited off their burgeoning reputation. Agnetha did not understand why Bjorn didn't check their life pace, harming her. Their playful warmth friendship strained as both sought to keep what mattered. Their conflicts are unusual. Public events, but they became early on. They trying to be cool. Especially, they had to perform together almost daily. But with time, the arguments slipped into their work. Recordings uncomfortable. Some days they sang loving songs together, notwithstanding no off-camera speech. That momentary communication break down completely. Agnetha would retreat to be quiet, while Bjorn buried work. When they appeared interviews or photos, their grins appeared flawless, but they were often that smile for others. Behind the glitz and fun, tears, loneliness, and to those having trouble connecting as their career developed, so did own expense. Agnetha missed birthday school performances and many small guilt over their kids that was heavy. Yet she felt ABBA was unavoidable, but each tour or album made her feel more distant from family she wanted. Bjorn sensed success like all their efforts. For Agnetha, it seemed like all she lost. She often talked about the emotional hardship maintaining her motherhood and superstar. Two constant lifestyles her in opposing directions. That fractures in their marriage disappeared invisible. They performed still smiling, creating beauty. The music was harmonious vanishing swiftly. Soon, love inspired. Their songs turned into the heartbreak they couldn't handle. Hide from lovers to strangers. That late 1970s. Agnes was far away. Fältskog and Björn Ulvaeus widened. They were still performing and a pair on stage, but a lone emotional link previously held them together was declining. ABBA's success brought them fame and wealth, but it also tested them. Constant touring, fame, and personal disputes weighed heavily. To what was once a loving marriage was becoming unsustainable. United. The breaking point came approximately 1978. After years of attempting balancing marriage, motherhood, and global career, Agnetha achieved a time-off lucidity. She told Bjorn one night the words she kept inside for so long. I can't continue. Angered and exhausted, she gave everything she could to she left the relationship recognized her former lover with, nor their lifestyle. Their split followed. But what happened next hurt Agnetha most. A few weeks after their breakup, Bjorn and Agnetha started dating again. This shock was intolerable, like an ending and our placement, leaving her grieving alone while the world thought Bjorn had simply stepped forward, deepened her heartbreak and verified her darkest dread. When news didn't show her anguish, their divorce was revealed in 1979. Media created a tale that was far from true. Agnetha was called abandoned wife, allegedly left abandoned by a husband eager to start over. Few understood her truth that not abandoned. She stepped from a life that broke her. Scandal-dominated headlines. Conjecture, making a false impression off their split. Reporters rarely mentioned her emotional fatigue, anxiety of traveling, separation from her children, or her inner loneliness carried alongside the man once adored. To protect herself, she let Agnetha stay quiet. World discourse, while it was incorrect despite ABBA's emotional turmoil, they had contracts to finish studio sessions and tours. Thus, Agnetha and Bjorn had to stand together, singing about love and togetherness through life. Agnetha endures heartache that learned to perform via suffering. It was most disturbing when stage promotion of Chiquitita they sung about soothing, sad, but Agnetha was quietly breaking. Fans watched intently, observed the silent tension, the coldness between them, their lack of glances. Duets once included real affection, bearing the weight of unspoken words. After divorce tours, Agnetha left venues in tearful. She traveled alone whenever she avoided long flights, and Bjorn concentrated on the emotional burden, always played music. But Agnetha fought to contain grief. She was followed everywhere. The longer lovers, barely friends, pushed into professional partnership. Chance to reclaim love tale on stage after it ended actual life. But after divorce, their story continued, since working together after heartbreak added another dimension. Painful standing together after their divorce. Agnetha Fältskog and Björn Ulvaeus was in one off hardest positions. Despite being separated, they still had to perform and record together and face millions of admirers who considered them part of ABBA's ideal image. Professional bond had to last. Personal relationship was silent, broken. The world applauded, Yet behind the lights and cameras, learning how terrible working sideways was beside with a former all the months after separation were hardest for their collaboration with Agnetha and Björn in ABBA continued. There was no way to rest or heal each tour. Every TV appearance, every song required sharing. They appear united on stage, grinned, sang harmony, and played duties expected of them privately. Nothing was spoken backstage. They often replaced discourse pass in dressing rooms without speaking, only coming together when the music called stage. They sang love lyrics, trust, and loyalty, especially when sentiments between them vanished. The connection was once it felt like a show. Professional harmony hit it. Personal sadness for Agnetha each show emotionally drained reminded her of her losses, making her experience their love story nightly. Strangers watch. Always professional. Bjorn focused, he maintained order, detached his emotions from work, determined to keep ABBA successful, even to hide anguish. But feigning was exhausting at the time. Bjorn has talked about divorce with emotion. He said they were practical. Breakup, albeit painful, and showcased ABBA's best. He thought the emotions they felt, regret, desire, and sadness made the tunes more powerful to him. Personal heartbreak strengthened their art, made beautiful music, he said that stated in interviews, considering how Agnetha perceived pain as creativity. Her years came differently. Heavy price. Success that each celebrant took a slice. Joy and peace, it cost me, I admit it. She said that how stress, heartbreak, continual public exposure left her emotionally exhausted. She was proud that music they made, but memories behind were too painful to rejoice. Yet after the stage lights faded, Agnetha sought peace and reclaim her life was just beginning. Post-ABBA Agnetha disappearance, last years together. Agnetha Fältskog decision that shocked the globe but was clear to her that fully abandoned fame. For over a decade, she was under pressure from constant public attentiveness, stage performance recording hits, and having everything her private life discussed in the media. When the group left stillness, she recognized her moment to retake her life continued after the break. The conscious break from music from all that formerly defined early 1980s. ABBA's Agnetha retreated as activity slowed. She left public view at Stockholm's lively entertainment and her kids, Linda and Christian. After years of travel, hotels, and photo shoots, she finally had let's live normally again. Her days revolved around her family and her simple habits, missing taking her kids to school, home cooking, and quiet moments without cameras watching. This period saw few Agnetha interviews. Time. She spoke quietly and sincere desire for healing place regain her identity. After years she wanted to live while playing peaceful. Far from the tumult, she was no longer young. She stopped fleeing favoring herself to years. She only appeared publicly when she longed to. Never for her attentiveness is genuine. She became stronger in isolation. She found calm healing in music, but over time, even in her quiet, people pondered. What was Bjorn really important to her? This time, Bjorn's regret in public in subsequent years after ABBA split. Bjorn Ulvaeus merely one of the band's creative minds, but also as someone who often publicly about their past. Agnetha preferred solitude. Bjorn faced life calmly. Carefully chosen words and explanations. Later, his insights revealed Aman who recognized what had hurt happened. But through the lens of acceptance and creativity, their personal justification to him sadness shaped some of however. ABBA's strongest music Agnetha. Those memories reminded Bjorn realized loss throughout time, that becoming more frank about the marriage breakup and emotional toll on them both that he admitted in interviews that the divorce hurt and had lasting effects on everyone. Though he often spoke about it with a distance, as if time had passed, he described wounds as lessons, ending his connection with Agnetha sad but unavoidable, expressing that fame, pressure, and the demands music industry has grown too big. Many fans noticed Bjorn's sometimes romanticized outcome. He claimed emotional turmoil after their split inspired some of ABBA's most touching tunes to him. The winner takes all shown that suffering can be beautiful, that their suffering was strange, contributed to society. He often stated that the split, while terrible, provided us amazing music. He spoke honestly and ignited listeners' conflicting feelings. Fans he sympathized with Agnetha sounded detached, like if he saw art fair trade for personal achievement. Others used it to express heartbreak. Coping, understanding what could unchangeable. When Bjorn spoke Agnetha or their past, His comments were often headlined. Interviewers described him as reflective. Some made fans. Others matured question his sensitivity. Sometimes appeared to decrease emotional pain focused on their divorce. Instead, legacy and artistic evolution of ABBA followed. Fans contested his tone. Some liked his candor, while his image was protected, according to others, rather than acknowledging its depth. What Agnetha endured. Agnetha eventually spoke. Years later, her words would reveal what those years of silence had. Agnetha eventually meant Agnes Fältskog, 75, acknowledges life stage where she no longer stops denying her story. Decades. She kept quiet about her Bjorn past, and she allowed the heartbreak. Music speaks for her, letting Pia Pleto interpret her feelings voice. But recently she has decided to be honest, not bitterness or anger, but clearly enjoying tranquilly after years of stillness. Her reflections show lady who can now explain why what she learned after leaving from it. When Agnetha talks about end of her marriage, her tone is peaceful, thoughtful, doesn't dwell instead of regrets or blame. She justifies her departure wasn't abrupt or caused by own fight or breakup result of years of. She stated she felt invisible. Just, I left to save myself. What she says matters. Enduring weariness, emotional distance, and her loss on identity. Agnetha left. It wasn't disobedience. She claims self-preservation. Staying would have cost her her life to a life no one else. She wanted to reclaim her voice, not as a performer famous group, but as a woman who may chose peace over still. She doesn't strongly criticize Bjorn. Acknowledges their youth, goal-oriented, and outstanding tension. Their love existed, but could not handle the continual attention fame demands. What comes through her statements emphasize honesty, a kind of peaceful realization that love is both beautiful and horrible. Walking away is sometimes the only option. Stay whole. On how it feels to perform her original compositions, Agnetha grins slightly at love and anguish. She says the tunes are gone to pain her, but remind her who she was and her progress. You can sing them peacefully now. Sadness remains. Their younger versions of a woman who loved deeply, lost profoundly, and survived. If liked this thorough dive into Agnetha, please like this untold story. Subscribe and ring alert so you never miss a powerful tale behind the music.